One of the many hats that we as pastors find ourselves wearing is that of chauffeur, driver, getting people from point A to point B. When I first started out in ministry, the church I was at, we didn't own a church vehicle, so we would have to rent vans. Sometimes I'd rent a minivan, sometimes I'd rent a 15-passenger van. Now, depending on the state you're in and depending on the insurance that your church carries, things vary. So when I first started in ministry, you had to be 21 to rent a minivan and I think 25 to rent a 15-passenger van. Of course, our insurance required, driver's license and proof of personal insurance and a list of drivers that would be renting those vehicles. Then I changed churches, and the church that I went to, we ended up with a minivan and a 15-passenger van that the church owned. And when the staff would go places, we'd ride around in the minivan, and I kind of by default just became the designated driver. And of course, anytime a group would go, whether it was the youth group or the college age, I would drive the 15-passenger van. And there was one time where our college age, they wanted to go on a trip out of state, but none of them were 25 yet. So none of them, per our insurance, could drive the 15-passenger van. And so they asked if I would drive them down, and I did. A couple things you need to know about when you drive. You got to know what the laws are in your state. When I first got into ministry, 15-passenger vans, they had a short wheelbase on a long body. So when kids would pile into the van, they all want to sit in the back, and then the van literally would kind of ride light on the front wheels, and it was dangerous. So to solve that issue, a lot of insurances said you have to remove the back seat, which basically made your 15-passenger van an 11-passenger vehicle. And then companies started putting long wheelbases on long bodies to take care of that weight issue. The van that we have here now at this church, it doesn't have a back seat. It's a 15-passenger van. It's a short wheelbase on a long body, and the insurance made us take the back seat out. And so I have a 15-passenger van, and I can only haul 11 people in it. Driving a big van is very different than driving your car. I drive a full-size 4x4 pickup, and this 15-passenger van is very different than driving even my big pickup. I would strongly encourage you, if you have to rent a van or your church owns a van, to go drive it. Drive it in your church parking lot for a while. Drive it on back roads where there's not very much traffic. Then you got to work your way up onto a highway. And you have to understand that driving an empty van is very different than driving a van full of kids, especially kids that are squirming and weight shifting and moving around. Things like it takes a while to speed up because it's big and heavy. It takes a while for it to slow down. You got to turn it a little bit wider. So you got to learn all those things. Back those college trips, the college age, the first time they went down to Georgia, I was the driver because none of them were 25. A year passed and they wanted to go back to this conference, and the oldest girl was now over 25 and she could legally drive the church van, but she had never driven a church van. And so I spent the afternoon with her, and I stepped her through everything, and we just went driving. It was like driver's education all over for her. She did great. They got down to Atlanta and made it back, and no issues, no problems. But again, this is one of the hats that a lot of times we wear. And so for the safety of yourself and for the people who you're taking, spend some time to learn to drive, whatever vehicle it is, so that everybody's safe. Keep your eyes wide open, keep them at 10 and 2, and check all of your mirrors. I'll see you next time.